Oh man, I tell you what, I was a hungover piece of shit this weekend, so I finally had time to binge watch the second season. Arcane Season 2. Following an explosive attack on the government, tensions are once again at a boiling point between the wealthy city of Piltover and the lowest city of Zorn. Vi joins the manhunt for her insurgent younger sister Jinx. Man, I remember reviewing the first season fucking years ago. Completely blew me away on how surprisingly good it was. I haven't really played the games for about half a decade or so now, but this follow-up, definitely been anticipating. That first season left us on quite the cliffhanger. What I love is that this second season doesn't waste any time at all. Actually, in all honesty, this could have been maybe double the length, or maybe like 1.5 times the length. Compared to season 1, we cover so much ground in this, with each new episode giving us this dynamic turn and twist that almost cancels out the previous and doesn't give us enough time to sit on it and stew. In that sense, I can kind of see how people might think that this is a bit rushed, but that complaint comes from a good place. The content in here is just still incredible, and that unique stylistic animation from Fortiche Studio is still there, if not more dynamic and impressive. And the content and the revelations are still super interesting, so I think people just wanted a chance to appreciate this more for longer. That being said, I know Riot said that they're not interested in necessarily continuing the story again, but want to next move around other parts of the world, exploring other champion stories. And there is an element of respect for a studio that is willing to commit to a short story window and not choose to instead drag out a story to what could become the representation of beating a dead horse just because it's spitting out profits and clicks. I mean, as usual, this is a relatively spoiler-free review, but I'm aware this has been out for a while now, and I've seen a lot of the internet's reaction on this. I've noticed a trend on the reception of those who are a fan of the game versus those brand new coming into this. And aside from the story pacing bits, it genuinely seems to be around the form of character representation. Season 1 was new and exciting, and we got to see a lot on how these characters were shaping up to be. But it wasn't that final product, so it was still exciting. And I think with this taking us into the finale, players of the game couldn't help but compare their expectations based on the characters from playing them versus what Fortiche Studio chose to move forward with here for the sake of the story. And that includes not putting in certain characters that I think people might have been hoping for or expecting. The biggest discussions on change of character that I've seen seem to revolve around Warwick, what could possibly be LeBlanc, and I think what they chose to do with Victor in this season 2. However, I think stepping back and taking the game out of the equation, I like what they did with most of the characters here. Caitlyn and Vi's arc, whilst it flip-flops a lot this season, I think does tie into a satisfying result. Caitlyn especially has a lot of great character growth in this, and I think she comes into her own really well by the end of it. Echo, whilst used surprisingly sparingly in this season, I think has some of the greatest moments of the whole show, including an incredible episode with Jinx. Also, the way they incorporate his power to make it work fluidly, just loved it. Jinx, I think, again, also has a case of flip-flopping too much. God, that really is an awful term. Flipping sides, essentially. And I think that would have worked if we had more time to focus on each stage of her change in priorities, but because this season is trying to cover so much ground, it almost feels rushed. Outside of that though, she gets a great couple of scenes, again making use of that fun stylistic music moments to give the action scenes that real sense of individuality. Jace is pretty straightforward in this, and I think the way his character goes is fine, but I think it's that friction with Victor and how Victor's character grows is what a few people seem to be irate with. He weaves into a different final product as to what I think most were expecting, but I think it works as a finale if you think of him as a new character. I kind of want to keep this short if I'm honest. I really do think that this is a hugely entertaining 2-season show that newcomers with zero knowledge of the original lore and game can easily fall in love with. Even as a fan of the games, I think this does really well to deliver based on the expectations I think everyone had, and it certainly gives me a lot of hope and excitement for whatever part of Runeterra they wish to dive into next. My money is then going over to Noxus based on the ending, but I'm personally hoping to see more of Freyord. But yeah, that's Arcane Season 2. Have you watched it yet? If so, I'd love to know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, feel free to leave a subscribe and like and all that sort of stuff. And as always, stay tuned for more reviews on movies, anime and video games. Until next time guys, take care. Bye bye.